You are Locked On Hurricanes POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Miami on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Wow, man, that took a while, man. That took a while to be ready to talk about this game, and thank goodness that one was this year, right? I mean, it's the end of the Cam Ward 1 year and done, unfortunately. But after this game and after what I just saw, it is tough to be a Miami Hurricanes fan right now. I'm looking at the chat, and there's already a lot of stuff in there saying fire Mario Cristobal. Welcome to your Locked On Canes postcast. My name is Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease. I have no idea why I look so dark. I have lights blaring all over me, but for some reason it's not translating into the software, and that's been an issue. But I will tell you this, not as big as an issue as the coaching of the Miami Hurricanes on offense and on defense. Mario Cristobal, we love him because he's an alum. He gave up a burgeoning career to come back and coach at Miami. We love him for coming home. We love him for the playing career he had. We love him for the recruiting. We love him for bringing in Cam Ward and Damian Martinez and giving this team the shot that it had this year. And then now you get back to the old Mario, which is can't coach in a game to save his life, burning timeouts, no adjustments on offense, no adjustments on defense from Dawson or Guidry in this game. And what do we get today? In a game at Syracuse where everything is on the line. In a game at Syracuse where you win, you're in the ACC championship game, and you have a chance to win that, go on into the playoffs. Where you win, you're virtually assured a playoff berth. Even with a loss next week, you had a 75% chance. You lose, and you only had a 40% chance of getting in. And yeah, that 40, you might as well forget that 40% chance. Losing 2 out of 3, no wins over ranked teams. I mean, the Georgia Tech game against Georgia helps a little bit, but what a disaster in Syracuse. Xavier Restrepo puts it on the ground. They run it back for the touchdown. That's the difference in the game. You go from everything and a chance to play for everything to ending your career in the IDGAF Bowl. Figure out what IDGAF means, because that's where we're headed after this game today. And you can thank Dawson and you can thank Guidry, because Dawson's Creek, no. Dawson's Creek is now Bleeps Creek. You know what I'm saying? No adjustments in this game today at all. I really went nuts after the Georgia Tech game, and my apologies to Alex Donald. The email's down and not working. I've been trying to send him a link. I've been frustrated with technology. It's not working right. And I'm making sure, because this one's been so wonky, that we stick with what we got here. But I'll tell you this. Thank you so much for being here. It's your Locked On Canes postcast. My name is Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease. I'm absolutely devastated, just like you are. What a disaster. What a way for this to all go down. They played with fire all year long. It burned them at Georgia Tech. And today, they were up 21-0. Today, they had this game in hand. I should throw all this crap out right now. Look at this. All these pages of notes I took on this debacle of a game today, as they're outscored 42-17. 42-17 after they took that 21-0 lead. In that stretch, 42-17, they could not find any way to even slow down Kyle McCord. They could not find any way to do anything with their defense against Syracuse offense. The passing game has killed us all year, and today it was the dagger. It was the death blow. It was the nail in the coffin, and I don't believe this team makes the playoffs. And if this team does make the playoffs, it's going to get smoked in game one anyway with this defense. And it's such a disservice to these players, to Cam Ward, to all those guys who have played so hard and done so well. You know, and Cam Ward and Damian Martinez choosing Miami over a lot of other big schools, you know, and you're looking at the portal as a way to rebuild this program, and you could be great again next year. But the in-game coaching matters, and it's been for crap for the last 3 years. It has been. I'd like somebody to tell me differently. It has been for crap. You are watching Locked On Canes postcast. My name is Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease, proud alum, class of 96, the University of Miami. Look, these other years have been so bad. We've had so many bad years. They've run our once proud and great program into the ground. The administrators at the school from Shalala taking us into the ACC to begin with, where we've never even won the ACC after being in the Big East. And it just has been year after year. And now you get a guy like, and I don't want to rip Mario, because God forbid he goes, and who are we stuck with? Who do we get after all this? But with the NIL money and with the portal, it changes the game for Miami. And these two coordinators, I know you got the number one offense, and I really believe that Guidry just has to go. Guidry has to go. This defense has been god-awful all season long. All season long. All right, you're watching your Locked On Canes postcast. Your title sponsor tonight is Gametime. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Also want to thank you for making Locked On Canes postcast your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And again, my apologies to Alex Dono, having technical difficulties getting the email to pull up for some reason in using different softwares within my computer to run the show, 2 computers. For some reason, that email is not pulling up. So we normally have Alex, and we won't here on this show, but just a disaster from the start. I don't even want to break this game down. I don't even want to tell you what happened in this game step by step because it's almost too painful to relive it. As you come out of the gate, Fletcher takes it in. You carve him right up, and you never stop Syracuse, by the way, after you got a couple of stops early. You know, and let's not forget they had a touchdown called back on a sus penalty in the first half, an extremely sus penalty. I mean, you want to talk about it really was a sus penalty, right? I mean, they took it right down the field and scored so many times tonight. I mean, we got up 21-0 because of the touchdown that was called back. It was 14-0 at the end of one, but that touchdown that got called back was very, very suspect. I'll say that. And it was something that, you know, when you look at it, it just, I mean, Kyle McCord left Ohio State after last year. They lost 30-24 to Michigan. They had lost 3 in a row, and Ryan Day wouldn't commit to him as his starter. It was between Will Howard and Cam Ward for Miami. Miami ends up with Cam Ward. Will Howard ends up at Ohio State. Dillon Gabriel ends up at Oregon, right? And, well, not anymore for Cam with the Heisman, but Dillon Gabriel and Cam in the Heisman race when they transferred in and playing there last year at a completely different school, right? So anyway, Kyle McCord left Ohio State, and unbelievable win for Michigan today, and thankfully Ohio State lost. At least we have that today, right? And a big win for Michigan at Ohio State, and I couldn't help but think, damn, I wish McCord were still at Ohio State, man, because if McCord were still at Ohio State, they might have won that game today over Michigan because Will Howard was absolutely dreadful, and that's the reason why they lost that game. But, you know, I mean, look, Bain jumps off sides early in this game today a couple of times. You had huge discipline problems on defense. Moten, of course, the last offside that seals the deal. A third down stop late in the game. You have a pass interference penalty on Frederic. They picked on Frederic all night long. Young players in the secondary getting big-time run. I mean, how many times do we see this kill the University of Miami? Glenn Sharp, Chris Gamble, anyone with a true freshman on the field at a pivotal point in the game, and Frederic getting burned over and over again, and Meeks just killed him. The 2 touchdowns in the game, and, you know, Kyle McCord was on point. We got a lot of pressure in his face. He threw some big-time throws and putting balls right on the button. Got to give him that, but 42-17, you get run right off the field. You finally force a turnover on defense, and then X puts it on the ground. They throw that little mini slant, and he dives for the first down. It comes out. They run it back. It's Restrepo. I mean, look, he's a senior. He's the all-time leading receiver. What's he going to be remembered for now? The fumble at Syracuse. There's a huge asterisk on his career when he thinks back in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. He's going to think about that fumble, and that's not fair. He's going to think about that fumble that he never should have been in the position to commit that turnover because his coaches refused to make an adjustment on defense. I do not know outside of the defensive line because they did get pressure on McCord all night long. The pressure was there. That's the thing that kills me. The pressure's there. But things like this, no communication, right? You're playing the run late in the game. It's like the last run that they ran, a little end around, right? You're keyed in on the tailback and the quarterback, and everybody just comes in. No one talks to each other. They run an end around for 12 yards and seal the deal and close the game. And that's the kind of thing that we've seen against our defense all year long. Wide open receivers because DBs don't know how to communicate with one another. And I think the University of Miami Hurricanes really need to think about, Mario Cristobal really needs to think about, I'm going to say it, I don't work for the school. I don't work for the flagship. This defense stinks. This defense has stunk all year. This defense, when you're talking about this offense being number 1 in the country, and it's only number 1 in the country because of the level of competition we played all year, and that's, look, it's just keeping it real, right? Would you take this offense over any other offense in the country? I wouldn't. Too many periods in games where they go to sleep, and you can't, look, you're outscored. You only scored 17 points after those first 21. And we'll go through the box score, and we'll go through the team stats, and we'll go through the scoring summary. And look, they had a touchdown called back. When it was 7-0, they had a touchdown called back. You know what I mean? It was what it was. You know, and McCord Barron forced a fumble, and McCord recovered his own fumble. That play could have changed the game even more. That was in the first quarter. You know, an easy drive for Syracuse, though. Like, almost every single scoring drive they had was an easy drive. 7 plays, 75 yards, 203. 16 plays, 67 yards, 544. 3 plays, 75 yards, 39 seconds. 8 plays, 7 plays, 75 yards, 3:15. Then you have the fumble return for 83 yards. And Restrepo, that's a 14-point swing because we're going down about ready to score. Jacoby George gets a personal foul as we have a goal-to-go situation. And, you know, could have taken away a big touchdown from us late in the game that Damian Martinez scored. You know what I mean? 10 plays, 75 yards for Syracuse. So look at those scoring drives. 7-75, 17. Yeah, wait, hold on. 7 plays, 75 yards, 16-67. 3 for 75, 7-75, and 10 for 75 yards. This defense has been terrible all year long. It killed us against Georgia Tech when they couldn't even throw the ball, and they just gashed us with the run all day, and now the exact opposite against Syracuse. What are the excuses going to be this time? In-game coaching got schooled, and then, of course, a lot more today with the offense. I mean, you put up 38 points, but 21 of them came in the first quarter. Literally, well, the first half. 14 in the first quarter and early in the second quarter, very early. So, you know what I mean? There's so many things to talk about and so much blame to pass around tonight. And we don't want to sit here and just throw salt. And we don't want to sit here and just whine and cry after what's been such an incredible season for the Miami Hurricanes. But Miami 21 Hurricanes says it best in the chat right now. And by the way, come on in the chat. Leave a little comment for us. Have some fun with us here. Hit the bell so you know when we come back with more content. And yeah, subscribe. Smash that subscribe for us because we've had a great year, right? We'll take what we've done so far this year, even though the IDGAF Bowl looms. By some miracle, maybe we get in the playoff. I don't know, but between the Georgia Tech game and this game with the defense and the stupid penalties, it makes me sick to my stomach, and I can't handle it anymore. A little bit late for the break. We are going to keep it going here on your Locked On Canes postcast, and man, oh man, 42-38, Cuse beats Miami. You see it right there, 21-0 lead, out-coached at Cuse, and that's what happened in this game. We were badly out-coached. I'll say it again. We were horrifically, horrendously, awfully, terribly, woodshed style out-coached. Look at that face by Mario Cristobal. That's not the worst face he made today. I wouldn't even want to be on that plane tonight if I were a member of this coaching staff after what you just did to these kids for the second time this year. And all those other games on defense where Cam bailed you out, 3 of them in a row. Remember those 2? 5 awful performances by the defense this year. And Cam bailed you out 3 times. The other 2, he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. So much more to talk about, including the numbers, individual numbers, the team stats that kind of tell the story a little bit. But in reality, the defense just stinks. And it was terrible again today. And in reality, it should have been a lot worse because the touchdown that Syracuse had called back, that was a sus penalty at best. You're watching Locked On Canes postcast. My name is Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease at JimGrease_ on social media. GRIES on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Well, one positive I get to experience here today is to tell you about Gametime. I love watching sports live. Thank God I wasn't at that game today in Syracuse. I might be in jail for murder in Syracuse. I might not have been out of there after that game because I definitely would not have been in a mood. And if I stopped anywhere on the way out of that town, and I know there's some other people in my position, that is a terrible loss. It just ruins everything. Best if you just leave the stadium and get out of there after a game like that. But nonetheless, it was an awesome experience, at least to start. A chance for the ACC title game, a chance to go to the playoffs, and you had a chance to be there in person. I absolutely love going to games in person, and what I love even more is how easy it is for me with the Gametime app. I can get in the app and do everything I want when it comes to purchasing tickets, and not just for sporting events. You can do comedy shows, you can do theater, you can do all sorts of things, concerts with Gametime, and that's what I love about it. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats, and what do I mean by that? Gametime picks. Check it out. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc., because you put in the parameters and Gametime will only show you the tickets that fit those parameters, eliminates all the rest of that stuff, custom curation just for you with Gametime, along with all-in pricing, along with the lowest price guarantee, along with Gametime's best and most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, and views from every seat in the app so you can see what you're going to see before you see it, if you know what I'm saying, if you see me. So you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Someone should have told the University of Miami Hurricanes this about 4 hours ago. It is Gametime on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And what a disgusting way for this season to come down to today. I hope beyond hope that we can somehow find a way into the playoffs. But truth be told, with this defense, and by the way, Locked On Canes Postcast, wherever you get your podcasts, we're free. That means Apple Podcasts. That means Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, and of course here on YouTube, Locked On Sports Miami. We are the post-game show here on the Locked On Podcast Network for the Hurricanes, just like we are the post-game show for the Dolphins, for the Heat, and for the Marlins. We'll be here tomorrow with another Heat postcast. Tip-off is at 6 tomorrow. Tip-off at 6 p.m. About 8:15 we'll be here with the postcast. And then again, of course, after every Canes game, and that game might not be for a while, and it'll be the IDGAF Bowl. Think about that. We could have had the championship game next week, a playoff game after that. You win, you get another playoff game. Coming into today, you were the number 4 seed, Mario, Guidry, Dawson, number 4. Man, I'm just devastated, guys. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know. I mean, look at that. You got a 21-0 lead. Restrepo's fumble, Syracuse touchdown, and it was just, I mean, that was what it was. You put the ball on the ground, and that's what happens. Let's hit the score for you. I mean, 14-0, 21-0 in the second quarter, and then from there, Syracuse scores 14 unanswered in the second quarter. You don't score again. The one miracle you had is Cam Ward gets the ball back. You have a chance to score before the half, and you end up giving them the ball back because Syracuse was getting the ball to start the second half. You can't score. You don't score there. And I have every note in the world. I mean, it just is unbelievable. You know what I mean? They're on their own 23-yard line. You get a 26-yard play to Restrepo. Lyles runs for 2 yards on 2nd and 8. Why are you running the ball again there, man? Dawson, you know what I mean? You draw the play to Lyles, and so Cam on 3rd down, the ball's batted down. You punt with under 2 minutes left. For some miracle, you stop Syracuse there, and then they get the ball to start the second half. You don't stop them again. But Miami has the ball with a chance to score toward the end of the half. Doesn't do it. Miami scores 7 in the third quarter, but Syracuse just smoking them. 21 points for Cuse in the third quarter, and then Miami outscores them 10-7 in the fourth. Then late, you have a chance to tie it. You get a penalty. You're out of field goal range, or you're out of touchdown range. Cam gets pressure, scrambles, gets inside the 10 barely. They kick it, and the defense with 5 minutes left can't get a damn stop, and then Moten goes off sides and ends the game for you. An offsides penalty and a fumble that gets taken back to the house from Restrepo. Those are the biggest plays in the game today. We can say all we want with the turning point, the star of the game, the final score graphic, and all those are coming up. But the fumble by Restrepo that got housed, and then Moten going offside, and they weren't going to stop him anyway. I mean, they were embarrassing. It was if I'm a University of Miami defensive player today, I'm embarrassed. I'm humiliated. You should all be. And Basaint played good. Basaint played pretty good. Barron was all right. Barrow got hurt again. It just was disgusting. So anyway, 42-38 the final. Cam Ward goes 25 of 36 for 349, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Kyle McCord outplayed him. 26 for 36, 380, and 3 touchdowns. Now, here's the thing. McCord at Ohio State last year, he wasn't a hot transfer coming out. Nobody really wanted him. Syracuse went and got him and said, you're the number 2 guy in our program behind our head coach. And he ends up having a huge year there, number 2 passing offense in the country. Outplays Cam Ward today. And imagine if he had still been at Ohio State, they probably would have beaten Michigan today. Maybe we end up with Will Howard instead of Cam Ward, but who knows with all the transfer stuff and all the, the NIL and the portal. But it's really a shame. SMU against Clemson next week. No Miami in the championship game. So McCord outplays Ward, and that's really a big difference in the game. Restrepo's fumble that gets housed. We had an enormous game today, and that's a shame. We'll get to that in a minute. I thought they could have done more with the running game, although they were good with the run game today, better with the play calling. I thought Martinez, 10 for 84 and a touchdown. Fletcher, 13 for 46 and 2 touchdowns. And again, Much better with the play calling, I felt like today. Receiving, monster game for Restrepo, 9 for 148 in the touch. But again, the fumble that got taken back for the pick six, unbelievable, man. Way to end that career and could have gone to an ACC championship. And instead, you go to the IDGAF Bowl, possibly still might make the playoff. I mean, if SMU loses that championship game to Clemson, the ACC will get 2 and Miami won't be one of them. But if Clemson wins, or if SMU wins, Miami might get in over Clemson. Who cares at this point? It was in our hands, and we would have been possibly the number 2 seed coming in. You never know. I mean, you won those games at Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And here's the thing. Georgia Tech crushed you and gashed you and destroyed you and took your soul with the run. Syracuse crushed you and gashed you and took your soul with the pass. You can't hang your hat anywhere. So heads have to roll on this defense. They have to roll. It all needs to be redone. Heads have to roll. It's inexcusable to have no communication. It's inexcusable for the secondary to get torched like that. Jacoby George had 6 for 121, Arroyo 5 for 44 and a touch. Cam McCormick had 2, Horton had 2. Big drop for him today in the game as well. Cam had a fumble lost. Restrepo had a fumble lost that got taken back for a touchdown. And it was unfortunate, to say the least. Man. And the Miami defense got torched. I don't even want to talk about anybody on the Miami defense having a good game. Borregales was 1 for 1 on field goals. It just was awful. I mean, why would you even, you know what I mean? And we're late for a break. And thank you, by the way. The numbers through the roof on the YouTube. Been doing great on the streams. Locked On Canes postcast after every Hurricanes game. Don't forget Locked On Canes with Alex Dono, day in, day out. Again, my apologies to those of you who are waiting for Alex to join me here. The email and everything with the link, it was not loading and having all kinds of problems technically. Thankfully, it has all worked itself out and worked during the show, and we have gotten that taken care of. Real quick on the team stats before we hit the break, and this is where you're just going to get sick to your stomach, as I have throughout the day, sitting there watching this game. And I have all these notes. I was going to take you through possession by possession, but you really don't even need to, I mean, you had a 21-0 lead and you lost 42-38. You got outscored 42-17 by Syracuse for the rest of the game. You gave up 42 points to Syracuse. You got smoked on defense by Virginia Tech. You got smoked on defense by Louisville. You got smoked on defense by Cal. You got smoked on defense by Georgia Tech. It is what it is. I mean, the first down's even, 26-25, 479 yards of offense for Syracuse. Look, you had 503 yards of offense, and you lost. You lost 9 penalties for 77 yards and a defense that can't cover or tackle, and there is your ball game. You're watching Locked On Canes postcast. Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease, wrapping it up on the other side with the player of the game. Yeah, right. The turning point, the final score graphic, a look ahead. What chances do we still have? Who even knows? What a depressing day to be a Miami Hurricane. Locked On Canes postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Jim Grieshaber, call me Grease, wrapping it up. Un momento, por favor. And you see the graphic up there right under Coach Clueless today, Mario Cristobal. That is FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, and that's right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And you got to love that. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, check it out. Big NFL Sunday tomorrow. No Dolphins. They lost on Thursday. Been a terrible football season. Now in retrospect, 10-2, terrible. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And I want to remind you that we really appreciate you making Locked On Canes postcast your first listen today. Locked On Canes as well with Alex Dono. But for your next listen, how about the Locked On ACC podcast with the aforementioned Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs, keeping it real, bringing you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And again, 42-38, and the season is not over. It's not over. It's not all doom and gloom. still had a chance to make the playoffs. And obviously, we just gave you the numbers. We're going to give you the player of the game. We're going to give you the turning point. We're going to give you the final score graphic. We're going to look ahead to what might be for Miami. Again, no Charlotte next week. It's going to be SMU and Clemson. And losses in 2 of the last 3 games, no wins over ranked teams. I'm not holding my breath for the playoffs, guys. I'm really not. Let's take a look at a couple of your comments. Reminder, come on in. Say what's up, drop a couple comments in. We'll try to read a few of them, as well as saying hi to you. And then you hit that subscribe for us, please. Smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when we're going to be coming your way with more content. So David Brenner says, not so much being out-coached. Miami was out-hearted by Syracuse. Much of the time, Miami's opponents show more character than they do. A low-character team for a low-character. All right, that's just stupid. I wish I wouldn't have wasted my time reading that. Low-character team for a low-character city. It's not because Syracuse had more heart. All right? Whatever team wins, both teams want to win. Both teams played their hearts out on that field today. Neither team quit. They both played to the end. Miami's coaches made no adjustments, David Brenner. Miami's coaches made no adjustments when Georgia Tech ran the ball down their throat 2 games ago. Miami's coaches made no adjustments today when Syracuse threw the ball over the field against them, just like they didn't against Virginia Tech and Louisville, and they got lucky when Cam bailed them out, and they made a big play here and a big play there. Your luck runs out when you don't make basic adjustments. Georgia Tech was running a high school offense, running the ball down our throats. And by the way, Haynes King and Georgia Tech almost beat Georgia yesterday, so that loss looked a little better. Syracuse is not a bad team. They're 9-3. The ACC is a good conference, man. This is just a result of Miami's coaches not making adjustments. And look, the offense was much better today. They ran the ball a lot more. They kept Syracuse on their heels, and Syracuse doesn't have a good defense. They just don't. So anyway, yeah, we couldn't adjust to weather if we were outside. There you go, Matt Gibson. AJ Veteran says Cristobal has been known for not winning the big game, and needing a game is a big game. Defense was awful. Other teams adjusted at halftime, and Miami does not. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. It's Syracuse has not beaten a top 10 team in forever. Man, SMU and Clemson in the ACC championship game. It is a real Canes heartbreak, James. No doubt about it. It really is. Best QB in college football, wasted ACC championship. 10-2 thanks to Cam Ward. No doubt. It would be 7-5. We're a middle of the road team. It would have been last year or the year before. Let's not be fooled. Now, look, the one positive you take from this year is that they were able to bring in Ward and Martinez and a lot of other people. Look, Barrow played at Michigan State. Bain played at Tennessee. Barron. You know what I'm saying? So when you're looking at this team for next year, you can bring in people from everywhere. And I'd be looking forward to that. No question about it. But when it comes down to it for this year, they did not make adjustments on defense, and that's why they have these 2 losses. If they'd have made any kind of adjustment at all against Georgia Tech, if they'd have made any kind of adjustment at all in this game today, they would have won those games. You have to be able to take away something that they're doing over and over again. I don't care if you put everybody on the team in the secondary to stop the passing game. You have to take that away against Georgia Tech. If you had to put 8 guys in the box, you had to do it. They couldn't throw the ball. Their quarterback's shoulder was gone. Haynes King, and he's a good thrower, just ask Georgia, but his shoulder was trash in that game. All they could do was run, and you still couldn't stop him. Today, all Syracuse really did was pass, and you couldn't stop it. When they did run, you couldn't stop it either. And someone says, fire the coach, JT. They lost to an inferior opponent. A better defensive unit needed stops. Canes are a better team and couldn't get stops defensively. There's a lot of them. It's hard to adjust when you're up so much at halftime. That's the best time to adjust. Yeah, there you go, Brian McKenzie. If you want to make adjustments moving forward, do not hire another below-average defensive coordinator. You don't fire the head coach here. I'm not saying you fire the head coach, 406 Swagger. You fire the defensive coordinator. You don't let him on the plane. Goodbye, good riddance. Don't even say good luck. Goodbye, good riddance. You're gone. You're gone. A 21-point lead, man. A 21-point lead, and they lose the game. You're spotted that lead, and you got a gift from the officials when they called back Syracuse's touchdown when they went down the field and scored easily. You forced a fumble early, and McCord recovered his own fumble. That could have changed the game. Restrepo, the thing that makes me sick is Restrepo's fumble. That's the lasting image now for Restrepo. And you saw his family up there. You saw him on the sideline, and for Restrepo, you lose by 4. Your fumble that was returned for a touchdown is the difference in the game because you win the game without that play. No matter how much we're talking about this defense and how crappy they've been and the lack of adjustments and all those things, none of that matters right now Well, you know what? Syracuse would have gone down the field and scored anyway, though. After we kicked that field goal, who am I kidding, right? When they run out the clock, they had 5 minutes left. They could have scored 3 more times on our defense in those 5 minutes, the way our defense was playing. All right, you're watching Locked On Canes Postcast. Before we get out of here, I'm sorry, but I got to show you Coach Clueless. And he needs to fire his defensive coordinator first and foremost. Goodbye. And the responsibility falls at the feet of the head coach. Look, I want to say this. 42-38 at Syracuse. You lose 2 out of 3 to unranked teams, and you blow a shot at the ACC championship. You blow a shot at the playoffs. Maybe you could still technically get in, and you blow a shot at a national championship that you never would have had a chance to play for had Mario not gone out and recruited the way that he did, brought in transfers the way that they did. So the recruiting has been very good, but Dawson and Guidry have not. And to be an elite team at an elite level, remember when Alabama brought in Lane Kiffin, you bring in that big gun. You bring in that offensive mind. Where's the next Kenny Dillingham, for example, the Arizona State head coach? And all that time that he was a terrific offensive coordinator and quarterback guy. I mean, you got to bring in somebody on offense now. You have to bring in somebody on offense and defense, and they're not going to fire off. The offense is number 1 in the country. You're not going to make a change there. I'm not enamored with what they do on offense. I think most of that is Cam Ward, and without him, you'd see that we would not be anywhere near as good, and the coordinator would probably be gone too. But definitely on defense, man. On defense, it's got to happen. It has got to happen, and it's got to happen now. And look at that face on Cristobal. That was actually a picture that was taken before the game, but it could have been taken after. By the way, thanks for the huge numbers here. We appreciate you. Locked On Canes Postcast right here, Locked On Sports Miami. Please smash that subscribe button. Give us a follow, hit that bell so you know when we're coming live after every Canes game, Dolphins game, Heat game, Marlins game. And then we have Locked On Canes, Locked On Dolphins, Locked On Heat, and Locked On Marlins for you as well. Those are all separate shows. They're free wherever you get your podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I'm Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease. And here's the turning point of this awful loss for the University of Miami. You could have picked 1,000 of them. It was the fumble by Restrepo that got returned for a touchdown. Didn't have the heart to put that up because I love X, and we all love X. And it just sickens me that, he would think of himself as the guy who cost us the game when in reality, defense. You know what I mean? It's the defense. So outscored 40. I mean, let that sink in. You're talking about a team that gave up almost 500 yards of offense and a team that was gashed by Georgia Tech on the ground, 300 yards rushing almost in that game, and then completely torn apart by McCord and Syracuse in this game. They hadn't beaten a top 10 team in forever. The only thing Syracuse is good at is overrated journalists coming out of their program. You know what I'm saying? Broadcast journalists, and you're outscored 42-17 after taking a 21-0 lead. You couldn't tackle. You couldn't get stops. When you did, you committed penalties. An awful game for the defense all the way across the board. And then your star of the game, the transfer portal quarterback nobody talked about all year when they were talking about Cam Ward and then Dylan Gabriel, and Will Howard, right? The transfer portal quarterback who was run out of Columbus after losing to Michigan 30-24 last year when Michigan was on the way to a national championship. Well, they replace him with Will Howard. Well, how'd that work out, Ohio State, in the loss to Michigan yesterday? You still lost 4 in a row, and you lost to an unranked Michigan without Kyle McCord, who then goes to Syracuse. Nobody wanted him. Everybody wanted Cam. Everybody wanted Dylan Gabriel, mostly Cam Ward, right? And Will Howard. So what happens? Cam goes to Miami. Howard goes to Ohio State. Gabriel's at Oregon. And Kyle McCord, the forgotten man, the former starter at Ohio State, goes to Syracuse and ends up with, really, you'd think with the Ohio State fans anyway, the last laugh, even though they're probably going to go to the playoff anyway. And Penn State is in the championship game now. So the Big Ten might end up with 3, which means that, yeah, you know what I mean? Miami getting in the playoff is going to be a tough one. But Kyle McCord, again, he outplayed Cam Ward in this game. Not by much, but let's say, hey, look, Cam's not – I would say thank you to Cam Ward. It's all we can say to him. But Cam's not immune, man. They were up 21-0, and for a long time they didn't score. There were a lot of drives when they walked off the field. They were batted balls. There weren't many missed targets today. He was pretty on point, not much in the way of drops, but – Cam's not immune, man. He's not immune from this. He had a couple of plays that he could have made that he left on the field today as well. And if he makes those plays, maybe we win that game, too. And it just is, I have so many pages here. I just want to look through them real quick and make sure I get to everything. When Syracuse is getting 7.5 yards per play, you know what I mean? And now we only have a 40% chance to get into the playoff. I already told you that. Unsportsmanlike conduct on Jacoby George late in the game that makes us kick a field goal instead of could have tied it with a touchdown there. 5+ minutes left. Still could have been 2 more scores, but you kick the field goal, you give it back. Maybe you question that call on 4th down. Maybe you almost had to go for it with the ball on the 9-yard line. I don't know. I just know that there's no way that we should have been beaten like that. I just know that there's no way you go up 21-0, you take the crowd completely out of the game, and then you let them right back in. And in an easy way. I told you about the scoring drives for Syracuse. I don't even want to go through it again. But, 7 plays, 75 yards, 16 plays, 67 yards, 3 plays, 75 yards, 9 plays, 75 yards. You just literally, it's not like it just happened once or twice. It was every single time. Literally, just about right before the half. I don't know how they didn't stop them there. It could have been worse. They had a touchdown call back, man. They had a touchdown call back. We go 9 plays, 75 yards to start the game. Beautiful drive. Syracuse turns it over on downs, 9 plays, 38 yards. And on a 4th and 2, he goes incomplete. Basint breaks it up for Kyle McCord in a beautiful play there. And so, you're thinking it's all right. Then Syracuse 3 and out. On their next drive, we score again. And then it starts, 7 plays, 75 yards. But again, they had a touchdown call back. We had Restrepo fumble. They brought it back for a touchdown. And if that play didn't happen, so there were so many things that happened in this game today that were just so maddening. Blown coverages. You make a play on a ball to break up a 3rd down conversion, and then they call a holding off the ball on a different guy who's the receiver's not even being targeted. You go offside on the last chance you have. You're not even just Moten. And he's the guy who got the personal foul at Georgia Tech, too, down the stretch of that game. Let's not forget. So just disgusting to have defensive players committing those kind of penalties and not being in the game, not communicating with each other. You look at Syracuse's drives, man. The end of the game, they still went 8 plays, 42 yards, and just killed the clock. They could have scored if they wanted to, but it was touchdown. It was touchdown. It was touchdown. And the one time they fumbled, it was a great play by Pruitt, and I thought that was where we won the game. We caused the fumble, going down the field. Restrepo makes that catch, picks up the 1st down. You're going, all right, here we go. Here's where they take the game over, and bam, fumble, pick 6, or takes it back to the house. And that's the ball game, 42-38. Your final. Syracuse beats Miami. Look, Ohio State is out of the Big Ten title game now, and so they are back in the playoff picture as an at-large team now, with Penn State not being an at-large, and now they're in the conference championship. So whoever loses that conference championship, especially if it's Penn State, you got to look at Penn State and Ohio State beat them head-to-head. So there's going to be a lot of questions for the committee. If SMU wins, is it Clemson or Miami if another team gets in from the ACC? If Clemson wins and SMU gets in, what's Miami going to do? Nothing there. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of at-large teams, a lot of 2-loss teams that played ranked teams that didn't lose 2 out of 3 down the stretch and who didn't just completely melt down and fall apart in big games. And that's what this Miami defense did. The offense was outstanding today. Could have been a lot better against Georgia Tech. Could have scored a lot more points today. When you get 14 points in the first half of the first quarter and 21 by the beginning, almost the beginning of the second, you're thinking you're going to put up a lot more. But, the offense puts up 38. They did their job today. And even though they lost that game, I don't think the offense has much to hang their heads about, except for the Restrepo fumble that got taken back. And that is the difference in the game. So sorry for X, the all-time leading receiver. It ends very badly for him if they don't make the playoff and they end up in the IDGAF Bowl. His career is such a sour note. You go from the championship game to the IDGAF Bowl, and I don't know how I would even try to comfort X after that. I don't think there's anything you can do. And the all-time leading receiver with an incredible career and just having it go up in flames like that late in the game at Syracuse in a game you had to win is just terrible. And again, your coaches should have never put you in a position to have that be the case. 42-38, the final. Syracuse beats Miami. The Hurricanes will not move on to the ACC championship game to play SMU next week. That'll be Clemson. Instead, Miami will drop from number 6 in the rankings, and they will pray. They will pray and they will hope that enough things happen to fall their way, and watch Locked On Canes every day with Alex Dono to follow it all. But enough things break their way from games and teams that are out of their hands. Enough breaks their way. And we won't know right away. All the championship games next week have to be played first. We'll know at the end of next weekend if we make it. Otherwise, it's the IDGAF Bowl. And what a way for an incredible season that had so much promise to end like this in 2 losses in your last 3 games against unranked teams. One of them stuffing the ball down your throat from gun to gun and another one throwing it all over your heads from gun to gun. Either way, it didn't matter. Your defense couldn't stop Georgia Tech or Syracuse. And to lose these two games and play your way out of a conference championship, to me, heads have to roll on that coaching staff. The defensive coaches, no one's safe. Mario's safe, obviously. Offensively, you have the number one offense. Nothing's going to be done there. Defensive overhaul. I don't see any other way. This has been your Locked On Canes postcast. So disappointed to have to report to you that the Canes lose this game 42-38, and they lose their spot in the ACC championship. Thank you so much for being here every single week. Alex and I love you. We appreciate you. All of us at the network. You've made these numbers huge for the Locked On Canes postcast. Hey, we've come strong all year long. So has the team. Overall, a positive. None of us expected this. Cam Ward had declared for the draft. He ends up coming here. D-Mart comes here. He was a beast today. And at the end of the day, man, you fell short because of the defense. You needed one or two more players in the secondary, and you needed different coaches. I'm just going to say that. You know, aside from the defensive line, you just need different coaches on defense. Blow that thing up, and let's start over on that side. My name's Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries, G-R-I-E-S, at @JimGries_ on social media. It is my pleasure to do your Locked On Canes postcast for you. Reminder, Locked On Canes every day with Alex Dono, and of course, Locked On Dolphins, Locked On Marlins, Locked On Heat. We have the postcast after the Canes, after the Heat tomorrow with a 6 p.m. tip against Toronto, and then after the Dolphins game, which is now, they won't play until next Sunday. Some winnable games down the stretch for Miami, without a doubt. They play the Jets, Jets, Jets next week. So the postcast will be right here. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes postcast a big part of your day all year long. We'll be in a bowl game that no one cares about, or potentially, hopefully, possibly we'll be in the playoffs. And then who knows? All I know is next year, Mario's got to shine in that recruiting that's already gone well. Get some more big studs in here through that portal. Fortify those lines in that secondary. Get the hell rid of this whole defensive staff except Jason Taylor, and let's go for next year. It's been all in all, if they told you before the year 10-2 with an IDGAF bowl at the end, maybe you go 11-2, you'd have taken it. I'd have taken it. We'd all have taken it after these past few years, and the last 2 years especially would have taken it. But we go 10-2, and we still have a shot at the playoffs. So, you know, in relativity, hindsight being 2020, of course, you look back and you think, wow, okay, I'm happy that we've had this year Manny Diaz for DC. No kidding, right? Yeah, it just was unbelievable, man. Unbelievable with Georgia's penalty and Moten's penalty and X's fumble. And, you know, that's just we could sit here and commiserate all day long. But all that matters, 42-38 Syracuse, you lose 2 out of 3, and you played your way out. You coached your way out of the ACC championship game, and in my mind, a potential playoff berth unless everything breaks your way next week. That's all there is, Canes fans. There is, thankfully, on this Saturday, no more. At least Ohio State lost. There's thankfully no more because I can't take any more of this for a day. I need to go drink heavily and drown my sorrows. I hope you will too, responsibly, of course. And maybe, just maybe, we get lucky, make the playoffs, get hot, and the defense somehow does something in those playoffs to help us, which I doubt. But anyway, you know what? It's been a good year. Let's not get too down. We'll see what happens, and Alex will have it for you every day as we find out what will happen and what will the fate be for this Miami Hurricanes football team. Again, your final score, 42-38, Syracuse over Miami. Miami goes to 10-2. Syracuse is 9-3. For all of us here on the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Canes and Locked On Sports Miami, I'm Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries, saying thank you so much for being here for your Locked On Canes postcast and all the other great shows we bring you covering your team every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Keep your game tight and your mind right, Miami. This one hurts in the worst way.